Hey traders, TG Watkins here. Let's see, August 25th. It's Thursday when I'm recording this, and last night, if you guys didn't hear about it, I did a basically an update about the Moxie Indicator Mastery, the trading room that I host, and all the education that I do in there, and then a little bit of the market update, and then also kind of some calls and some follow-up on some of the other things that I've been talking about over the last few months now that we're kind of in this crazy market. So if you guys come over here to simplertrading.com/catch-replay, it's up here in the top if you guys can see that bar. So we're going to have that. We can have a link posted, but we're going to be out there. It's going to be on social medias if you guys want to find it. But come over here. You can watch the replay, check it out, and see how that went and what you thought of it. So let's dive into it, looking at the S&P in through here. What I'm basically seeing is I think that right around here, the daily 21, even though it went below the 21, but I think they right in this area, it's going to hold for a little bit. You know, we know that there was a big level of support, and even if you go looking left, there was a big level of support, so it dipped in there. I think it's going to be defended for a little while. However, I think that the move that we get up here is going to start running into resistance, and I have a feeling we're going to be making some sort of double top eventually. Something to that extent. So I was kind of looking at playing some names to the long side, but I just think it makes me feel like I'm playing the last little hand that the market could possibly have to the upside, and it just felt like it was getting a little bit close to the razor's edge, and so I just kind of tightened things up today for what I was looking at. Now remember, we have Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow, Friday, at Jackson Hole. You know, he's probably not going to say anything to really shake the boat too much, which would almost say that, well, if he's going to be gentle, then, you know, maybe we get a little bit of a pop. And again, kind of how the market is very tricky. We could see that pop, you know, like, oh, good news. And then that news kind of actually goes like this. It's kind of similar to how we had a good news pop here with the CPI and everything. And it did last a few days, but then it came right back down. And if you looked around at the market, there were actually a lot of names kind of stopped moving kind of right up in this area. So there was really only about 2 days that things were moving. And then after that, it started going sideways to down. So I just kind of feel as though that's how it's going to go, that if good news or not so hawkish news or whatever kind of comes out of Jerome Powell's mouth at Jackson Hole, then I could see a little bit of a move up like this, but that is just a short thing to catch. You know, if you're going to do it, probably catch it with the indices. See if you can maybe do it with Apple or Amazon or something like that would kind of trade with them. But I really think that we're going to be getting a move up like this, and then it's probably going to roll back over. So just keep in mind, keep your trades tight, and just don't be surprised if it kind of comes up and then we roll over again. I think we're going to get messy in here. I believe that this is generally going to be somewhere in here, a topping pattern, probably back down to the daily 50. And so that's generally the way that I'm playing this and looking at things. And as I said, just kind of tightened up ship a little bit. If we look at the NASDAQ, you know, it's going to be looking basically the same thing. NASDAQ probably actually a little bit weaker in this case because interest rates. So I don't know. Tech just looks weaker. You can see it's further below the daily 21 than the S&P, but same thing, it is generally following the 15-minute 50. I guess that's one thing I didn't mention with the S&P. So I think the indices, the NASDAQ, the IWM, the SPY, all that kind of stuff, I think the process of price getting back up here to its previous high, like this, I think that process is going to be price following the 15-minute 50. So keep an eye out on that and just see where it can go. I've got an example after that, what it's going to look like. I also think part of the reason why I said, hey, coming up here, it's going to be a problem, is because if price comes up here over a downtrending hourly 50, look where the Moxie indicator is. That is very, very far below zero. So what it's doing is it's setting us up. It's running up into a potential inverse trampoline move. And remember, an inverse trampoline move is when price is over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is below zero. It shouldn't be like that. So either it's running up into a short entry, like a short sale entry, or it's running up into a false long. Either way, that's why I'm saying I think we need to be very careful and cautious and keep things tight if you are going to try and trade that move to the upside if that happens. So let me take a look at the IWM, and then I'll show you a couple examples of what I've been looking at. You can see that all these are basically the same thing. You can see here the 21, you know, they're bouncing. So far it's trying to follow the 15-minute 50 and all that kind of stuff. We'll just have to see how far this can go. Now, let me show you kind of two paths that I think that this might go. One, if we look at, say, Ford, and we traded this short, we made a quick 5% off of it, and then figured it was going to bounce off the 21, which it did exactly. And so here you go. We traded it from here to here, got out because I figured price was going to bounce right there off of the 21, which it did. And then you can see here for now, about 3 days worth, it has followed the 15-minute 50. However, like I was kind of trying to explain with the S&P and the NASDAQ and all that, you can see now price is up over a downtrending moving average with the Moxie indicator below zero. And that, I believe, is going to be problematic. That is a potential inverse elf shoe or inverse trampoline move. And that could be a short at some point. So I am actually eyeing these things for a possible short entry. I need to make sure that they don't keep going up. So I'm trying to wait for the right time. It's probably going to be early next week. And then honestly, I think that, right here, there's going to be some resistance. And I think after that, the next move is going to be back down to the daily 50 or below. So that's a general theme of where I'm going. And then HLF, Herbalife. And what I want to show you, let's see if we can get far enough back here. And here we go. And so if we look at this and we scooch this one over a little bit here, and we look in the past, and right there. So let's kind of get that. Yeah, right there. Perfect. And so what I'm showing you is another way that the market could go. Let's assume, so like this, you can see here is that move up and where to go. Right down to the daily 21. The S&P is doing the exact same thing, right? It went a little bit below the 21, but same thing. And you can see it did manage to hold right there and then move up a little bit. But you know what? That here on the hourly chart was price moving up, and it ran right smack into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. So there's one of two things that can happen. Either price is going to be able to push up a little bit and get over the hourly 50, like I showed you on Ford, or it's going to move up and run exactly into the downtrending hourly 50 and then continue to get rejected like Herbalife. Which way is it going to go? I don't know. But how do we figure out which way it's going to go? We follow the 15-minute 50. If price can continue to follow that 15-minute 50 and then push up a little bit like Ford, hey, okay, we're going to do that. And we're going to set ourselves up as an inverse trampoline move. If it can't get over there and it continues to get rejected by this, then we should see price failing the 15-minute 50, and we should just see price keep getting rejected by the hourly 50. All of this, remember, is with the Moxie indicator on the hourly chart well below zero. Like, the SPY has its hourly Moxie indicator well below zero like this. So none of this is really good for the upside. It's a question of how far is this thing going to move up before it rolls over to the downside is really where I'm at. And you can see here, Herbalife back on this thing went to the daily 50 and then just below. And I think that if this works out for the S&P and a lot of these other stocks that I'm seeing, I think that is the direction that it's going to go. It's going to go back to the daily 50, could go a little bit below the daily 50, but generally speaking, it's going to go back down to that area is how I'm viewing things. Now, if we look at the UVXY, and because this has been great. The UVXY has just been amazing. If you look at this, what do we have right there? It's an elf shoe. And if I'm like talking Greek to you guys and you don't know what this means and all these patterns and stuff like that, that's why I'm saying come over, you guys check out this webinar, simplertrading.com/catch-replay. We're going to have it out on the social medias and all that kind of stuff. And that's where you can kind of learn a little bit more about me and what I talk about and how I view the market and all these other kind of things. We've got some really good deals coming on here because basically it was like, the stock market is on sale. The stock market is down 20%, buy the dip. Well, we're on sale. We've got some really good sales going on right now. Buy the dip. So this is your buy the dip opportunity for what I do, Simpler Trading, and some of the other tools and things that we do. All right. So a little side note there. But anyway, what I was talking about is there's an elf shoe and there's the elf toe. So that's the move. And what you can see here, there's an elf shoe. There's the elf toe. It's repeating. These things are consistently repeating. If we go across, what do we got here? There's another elf shoe. There's the elf toe. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a kind of language and setup and things that I've created so that we can understand and speak the same language. So what do we have going on here? That is the beginning of an elf shoe. And we're going to have to wait for it to work out. But I think that is working out. We'll have to give it some time. But once this elf shoe completes, then we get the elf toe. And you know what that is? That's about a 50 to 70% move on the UVXY. And I think that that's going to be a really killer move for us. How about on the hourly chart? Just like I was saying on the S&P, where I think that the S&P is putting itself into an inverse trampoline move, this is a regular trampoline move. Price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0 is telling us that eventually this is going to be a buy the dip situation. And if we're trying to talk about buying the dip on the UVXY, then that means the market is topping out and going to be rolling over. So nothing has fired yet, but I'm looking at these things very, very closely. And I'm basically looking for a form of a double bottom on the daily chart for the UVXY. So being very, very clear and adamant about what I'm looking at through here and seeing if it's going to, have my ideas and see what I'm seeing, but we're going to have to wait for them to actually come to fruition to take advantage of them. So yeah, those are some of the things that I'm looking at there. If we come over to Tesla, Tesla had its stock split today. And let me see if I can get on the higher time frame actually, because that's going to be a little bit better to show. Yeah, the weekly, kind of zoom in right there on the weekly chart and daily. And this is going to be fun. What do you guys see? For me, I see price running right into the underside of the weekly 50, the Moxie indicator super far below 0. You can also see that there is a pretty good trend line right there, and price is running right smack into that trend line. The other thing I'm seeing here on the daily chart is price is running into the underside of the daily 50. If you notice, the S&P has done the same thing. And what did the S&P do? Well, where is the S&P? The S&P currently is right here at its daily 21, which is why I'm saying that the potential for price to move up again is there. That's kind of what we're looking at now. However, what I also said about the S&P is I think we're running into basically a double top scenario, and then we're going to see price start to come back down. And Tesla is a little bit ahead of the pack, and I think that right there you can see that there's a gap between price and the daily 50, and I have a feeling that they are going to meet. Of course, maybe price can do it by going sideways and letting the moving average come up, but I don't think that's the scenario. I think it's actually going to come down to meet it. So that's my thought. And you can see that at this double top right here on Tesla on the hourly, check out that massive negative divergence right there. That is the Moxie indicator is really trying to communicate to you here and tell you some things. And then what do we have right here? That is a little bit of an inverse trampoline move. Remember, price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. Or you could be saying, hey, price bounced up into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 and got rejected. So yes, I think that this thing is basically whittling its way until it falls down like that. So there's Tesla. We got that. How about Amazon? And Amazon, I mean, they're all looking the same. They're all looking the same. How about this? Amazon also running right smack into the underside of its weekly 50. And you can even see that there's a big gap here between price and the weekly 8s. So that made sense for price to come back down to that. How about the daily chart? Running right smack into the underside of its daily 200. Yes, it's kind of finding some support at the 21, just like the NASDAQ, just like the SPY. And yes, maybe we can get price to come back up like this, maybe in this area, just like Tesla. So what did Tesla do? Came up here, double top, ran into the 200, ran into the 200, previous high, double top, all that kind of stuff. And then it came back down. Basically, it's not going anywhere. And so what do we think would happen with Amazon? I mean, the best case scenario, if you're bullish, is that we come back up here. But what's the problem? Look how red and how negative the Moxie indicator is on Amazon. That is crazy. And so even if price comes up like this, it's going up against a downtrending moving average, and there is a giant gap, or at least there's the Moxie indicator is super far below 0. So if price gets over that downtrending hourly 50, the Moxie indicator is below 0. That's an inverse trampoline move. And basically any kind of up move, I think, is running up into resistance and an eventual turnover. So there's no telling how high this thing's going to go. So if you want to catch it to the long side, go for it. But we just don't know how far it's going to go. It might not be worth it. So also, I think, again, this gap here between price and the daily 50 is going to be an issue. I think price is going to come back down to the daily 50. And if we look at Apple, more or less the same thing, obviously super, super high. And one thing to note, again, this thing had a very large trend line. Now, it did just poke over that trend line. That's okay. They're fuzzy. Trend lines are fuzzy. But it poked over and came back down. And this thing was just looking seriously overbought. You look here on the weekly chart, look at that. There's a giant gap between price and the AEMA. And there's a giant gap here between price and the daily 50. And then on the hourly chart, you could see that price going up, 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 What's the Moxie indicator doing? Down, 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 down. So there was some negative divergence. And you know what? There's the Moxie price trigger. Like, talk about timing, right? That is good timing. That is exactly what the Moxie indicator is there for and what it does. And yeah, so there it broke. And now you can see, I mean, look at this. Just look how much red and negativity the Moxie indicator has. Just like the rest of the stocks I've talked about and the indices, yes, it's probably going to bounce off of that daily 21. Where is it going to go? I'm not sure. Maybe it'll come back up here, do a double top. Okay. Hey, if you want to trade that, go for it. Just understand it too is going up against a downtrending hourly 50, and a price over the 50 is going to put itself into an inverse trampoline move. So I'm seeing a very, very consistent thing out there about what's going on in the market. And I think we should be well aware of it and how to kind of watch that we're basically topping out and running up into resistance. And I think we should be careful about that. Some of the other things, if we look at, say, oil, USO and all that, I've been torn between this one. It's been a combination of bullish, but then also kind of bearish. So the bullish side is that oil is run into its monthly 10 and basically into its weekly 50. So you could view this as kind of a flag into support. Okay, but what about the daily chart? The concern I have with the daily chart is that it's trying to hold here. It's trying to hold the daily 200, but it's moving up into a downtrending daily 50. And of course, this can push for a while. It certainly can. I can show you a couple individual oil tickers that are doing that. But my concern is that at some point, those are conflicting angles. And again, the Moxie indicator is below 0. So that's an inverse trampoline move that it's potentially setting itself up into. It is trying. Some oil names are moving. And we made some money off of you can see XOP. And we did Gush, which is the leveraged ETF of XOP. And so I think we got in, oh gosh, where we get in, like here, and we got out here. It was like a quick 10 or 11%. Cool. But you can see on the daily chart, price is trying to go up across the downtrending daily 50. It can push for a while, but at some point, that gap is generally going to want to be filled. And that's, it's a little trying to go up into what you're eventually going to see as a pullback. It's also starting to reach the third ATR and it's starting to pull away a little bit. So I've been just really tightening up my trades in anticipation of some of these pullbacks. So seeing that, let's see, that's XOP and that was Gush. UNG had some pretty good moves, but you could see it too got a little overbought. There was also some news, I guess, I forget the name, but another LNG producer, they had some bad situation go on, something about maintenance, I think it was. Anyway, that kind of stopped UNG in its tracks, like boom, right there. That was the news. However, you can see price up, Moxie indicator down. It's starting to show some divergence. So the best case scenario is that price is going to have to chill out in order to find some support and then go up. The worst case scenario is that this might actually kind of be topping a little bit and it could roll over. If we compare this to what I was just saying about USO, to where price going up, here you go, price going up across basically a down or flat daily 50, you can see there's the pullback. That's exactly what I'm trying to talk about. XOP is going up across that moving average. Well, what if it needs to pull back at some point? You don't want to ride that. What about USO? It's trying to go up across the downtrending moving average. What if it needs to pull back to the 50? So I'm just saying we can trade this for a while, but at some point there's probably going to be a pullback, and then I'd like to wait for that pullback, and then there can be another little bit cleaner of a move like that. So that's kind of my thought on those things. I'm going to be wrapping it up here. I got to get going for the day. And yeah, good luck guys out there. And remember, come check out the replay from the webinar about looking in the market and stuff I do and how I help people out there. simplertrading.com/catch-replay. All right, guys. Thanks again. Talk to you later.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.